Hi, Crystal. Crystal, can you say, I love you? I love you. Hello. Okay. Let's get this started. My name's Dr. Richard Mclean. It is the 28th of December, 2021. I have a request to finance.gov.au. This is a public statement as well, I think. I'm not sure yet. But anyway, I'm making an application for a payment of grace from the federal government Department of Finance and Cabinet. So I've been the unwitting centre of an elaborate and conscious conspiracy that's local, state and federally systemic, and identifies me as a victim and vilifies me and has oppressed me quite maliciously to the point of suicide, which was then covered up. The movement that has desecrated me is via proxy attack from agents and statutory authorities and institutions of the Australian federal government. There is a standoff with me as an individual and the government and the systems and agencies that oppress me, because we've both come too far to backtrack now. So today I offer a plea bargain and a peace deal to the movement that has maimed, shamed and desecrated me and led to unnecessary overdoses and nearly killed me, or really did kill me. If I wasn't found, I would be dead. Sadly, this suicide in Werribee Mercy Hospital in March in 2021 was then covered up by the Health Complaints Commissioner, the Mental Health Complaints Commissioner, who were called out as being double agents in the hospital's favour, and then further Ben Calder from the Victorian Ombudsman, who condoned that death as nothing to see, even though it desecrated my human rights, my dignity, and that it was with an agreed illegal contraband. So I mean, that's a litigious thing, and it also contrabands the Human Rights Charter, and it is obviously like an issue to victim blame someone who suicides because of systemic oppression and stigma and prejudice is just awful. Now that was covered up and was a further desecration of my human rights and dignity, and further after that I was subject to even more heinous abuse and oppression with the desecration of my website, richmclean.com.au, in which I use and utilise to make money, and was also my registered ABN, and it was deliberately destroyed, and all backups deleted, and all my emails as evidence before a court were deleted, or that were potentially before a court. And the system of oppression absolutely knew this. Micron21, the web hoster, ironically called me conspiratorial, and wanted nothing to do with it, they said, and emailed me out of the blue a day before my computer was attacked, and it's been under surveillance for some time, and hacked and had Trojans and all this stuff in it, and my files were deleted. And then the attack came the next day with a note to say, you are no longer a customer. We've intentionally deleted all your backups and your emails, and we've now blocked you from calling us and emailing us. So, I mean, that as an intellectual property issue is just huge, and for someone to be desecrated via their business, I mean, imagine if Telstra.com went down or MyGov went down, because I'm exploitable and apparently small and powerless, but have you ever tried to sleep with a mosquito in the room, as the Dalai Lama says, can get away with it. Now, I called business.gov.au and business.vic.gov.au, and they rejected the defence of me having my own business and electronic interface where I sell books and my own creations, and also get my sorry, my memory's a bit bad. Get my clients, and is an interface and my legal business and a legal entity for serving the community in my capacity as a registered therapeutic support for the NDIS, and additionally I did all my note keeping, and I can't do my audit for the NDIA because all my data's gone. So further to that, the business stock of the government rejecting that there was nothing wrong with that. The telecommunications industry ombudsman also rejected it, and the small business and family ombudsman also saw it as an innocuous thing. So I'm well aware, just basically, that I am a free man. It's Tuesday 20th December, I'm a free man. Apparently I've done nothing wrong. I don't know, I think I'm going to be framed somehow as of today's date. I'm just chilling out. My situation is, though, I have no food. I've barely got, I'm squatting. I'm months behind in rent. So much has happened. Anyway, I'm hungry and I haven't got a doctor. I've survived suicide. I haven't got a psychologist, haven't got a psychiatrist. Now, I believe that this locked horns battle between one single man, me, against a enormous tyranny of bureaucracy and red tape and kicking the can down the road via delay and defer tactics of government departments and agencies and statutory bodies has reached its goal. The goal is my financial and utter desecration, the rejection of my human rights, the silencing of my voice, and the maiming personally, professionally, and in every way of me as an individual. That's a lot to swallow. And further, due to a medical malpractice issue which I brought up years ago, that it is a valid thing and that I have evidence for, that was covered up by many agencies. The movement's processes seem to stop at just not kill. Well, they can't kill me, but to kill me via proxy, make it as hard as you can make it for one single person to exist and have a semblance of rationale and sanity when they've been outright desecrated by Centrelink, by the governments, by ombudsmen, by agencies. It's a desperate situation, and having been someone who's overdosed knowingly a couple of times, has apparently mental illnesses, and has expressed suicidality to many, many organisations, statutory bodies, including APRA and IBAC and the police and NHPOPC and others, and that I've actually survived a suicide attempt in a hospital which was covered up, and the freedom of information, which I had to fight for, they tried to cover it up. The freedom of information says it was a lethal injury, and it was a fatal attempt, and I was found with no blood, no observable pulse, and had they not have found me, I wouldn't be here speaking today. I believe, I've got death threats coming straight to my window, but apart from that, I'm just squatting here with no food and nothing, and it's turned me into some kind of desperate plight of a person in which I've been framed and desecrated to my nearest and dearest. And somehow, I don't know how, I have no help whatsoever. My family, who are prone to their own prejudices, have and who I'm easily exploited with their existing prejudices. I think the movement amplifies those things in order to turn people away. Other people who have come into my life who swore black and blue they would never leave and see me through, such as Yusuf Solomon, my recent counsellor, and other counsellors, have all disappeared. I know this, I can see it existentially from my point of view. I know what's going on. I'm not insane. I'm not suicidal. I wanted to say that, what was I going to say? I forget. Anyway, so I launched a website called killim.info. It's a life and death thing. I saw no other option. I was framed to do this, and I've been framed to stick up for myself. I would rather not be the person who has to do this. I'd prefer a nice career back doing what I was doing, looking after people and having a fine and dandy life with my dog. I'm well aware there is no care or love or justice in the world for me, and that the federal, state and local governments have rendered themselves in a way that I can prove that has not only ignored my suicidality, but that in fact they acted via proxy by actively ignoring me and desecrating me, that most likely have aided and abetted my death. Now, I wanted to say, I tried to explain this to the doctors who came to the door when I was hospitalised for the first time, and I told them exactly what was going on. I was well aware of what was real, what was unreal, and sadly, when you're paranoid that the world is against you, and they actually are, it's a damn shame. When that hospital released me after my death, who released me homeless, squatting, with no money, no food, and no job, now that I've been incarcerated and gone bankrupt, which never needed to have happened, they had to admit that I was neither psychotic nor delusional. And in fact, via that token alone and that hospital report, it explicitly explains and renders that the movements of oppression that I felt were happening to me and that I demanded people do something about, but they didn't, preferring to identify me as mad rather than access my justice issues, were, it was clearly stated at the end that these were true. I was not delusional or psychotic, and I'm not. I believe that this movement is still aiding and abetting my death, and that these vile proxy attacks that are based in prejudice, slander and victimisation and prejudice are a conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. Now, conspiracy to pervert the course of justice is illegal, and it's an assault on my human rights and my dignity. Now, victimisation is also illegal, and slander and libel is illegal. I can unequivocally prove that the government, the federal government, and other members of parliament and agencies and statutory bodies have been complicit in fostering and aiding and abetting my death by the violence of neglect and making life as hard for me as possible. And that goes for the police too and other agencies, and I will not stand for it. In hindsight, this view has only been possible now. That's after my attempted suicide in Werribee Mercy Hospital in March, and a couple of overdoses previous that were absolutely grief-driven and totally avoidable. My dear friend Nathan Turnley, who helped me through my PhD, committed suicide, and I was alone, ostracised, and finding it hard. That overdose needn't have happened, and my life is a valuable thing. In my defence, I have always defended that doctor, even written him letters of support. I didn't want him to lose his job. He didn't have an ABN. So many other things have gone wrong. I happen to record it because I'm a kooky person and I check things are real. Because gaslighting, when you've been subject to it, really does demolish your sense of am I wrong with this? Or it's not necessarily a delusion. It's second guessing yourself, and that's what this elaborate movement has forced me to do. But I remain steadfast in my view. I believe I've been on ASIO's watch and the government's watch for a long time, and I believe I've been set up to fail again and again. The most recent one is when I took my work cover case, which would have seen me be out of poverty and hence probably not susceptible to ranting and hospitalisation, as well as AFCA and my insurance fund, who refused to pay me because stress is apparently a mental illness, and I was prejudiced against that I had a prior existing illness, even though this is with HCF when I left work with a failed magistrate, so it goes on and on. Anyway, I'll just move on. This has played out to be an elaborate movement to desecrate me so that I have neither support nor the means nor prosperity to bring my former partner, which I think is very pivotal in this, Stefan, or Stefan Isonides, birth date 11th of the 12th, 1971, I think. Yeah, to justice for a 5-year plus relationship in which we were engaged. He was also a high-ranking and intelligent, hi Steve, narcissistic type of person, and he was high up in Apple working with Steve Jobs. He was also an ASIO employee with David Irvine. To this day, I needn't have gone bankrupt, and I provided that evidence to APRA, who still condoned my bankruptcy, wouldn't let me off the hook, and I'm asking for for that debt to be waived, as well as the offer that I put forward. Mr. Isonides owes me an equitable and legal property and assets and equity split for the 5+ years we're engaged and living together, and I believe I have a good reason to be out of time for the family court, but of course I'm banned from the family court as well as the AFP and other agencies. So whilst I was elongating my time on a DSP and living on a nest egg, which I spent entirely on him and the relationship and existing, he was earning from 152 up to 400 grand a year, feathering his own nest and oiling his super, of which I had none. And I was on a very meagre wage. Now, I admit that, and Centrelink know, and the agencies know, as well as ASIO knew, that I was on a DSP, and Centrelink knows it too. If you hold me to account on that, as opposed to the vast amount of injustice that's happened to me, I would be surprised. And in fact, I dobbed in the relationship because I wanted to be more transparent. However, during the relationship and at the start of it, Steve sold a $1.2 million Abbotsford property for $1.2 million, and he invested that money in an offshore tax haven and got caught and was let off with ASIO and his mates at the tax office with I think it was about $200,000 fine, which he told me about years later. Anyway, this avoidance of jail time is clearly corruption, and I forgot where I was going with that, but all you have to do is look at his tax records and you'll see. But depending on which name he goes under, because he's got different accounts. But further to this thing, I've published all his accounts online and his bank balances, which you'll see 5-10 grand come in at a time from unknown sources. Here's one dodgy dude. Hi, Steve. This is Steve clearly took advantage of me as a person with different abilities, and it's crystal clear case of keeping someone a financial and sexually coerced slave subject to his rules of control and monogamy, whilst he was doing the exact opposite. My knowledge of that man and his financial affairs is enough. I've just said on to that. So he avoided jail. This injustice of powerful people who have money and power and positions of reputation and enormous privilege is a common theme in my fight for justice. However, I am rich in name, and I'm rich in my soul, and I'm rich in creativity, and I'm rich in my worth. I don't care how much money you have. I need enough to get by, but money's never been my currency. It has simply been less of a burden for the government and the oppressors and the proxy attacks, I think, by my former partner, for me to die by my own hand than have me receive justice for the many issues that are systemic and human rights abuses that I have, and legal. I'm a free man, but let's remember. And also the legal separation of me and Steve. An extraordinary amount of human rights abuses from government agencies that all acted with unison to render me a vagrant or dead. I'm alive, but I'm a vagrant. So you've got some of your wish true, but I'm not going to die and I'm not going to kill myself. I'm going to stand up for myself. I've been rendered a mute and voiceless refugee in my own democracy, void of rights, of voice, access to litigation, access to a doctor. In the whole couple of years and after my suicide, I have not been afforded a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a neurologist to sort out the memory problems that I have, which I've now researched, and the loss of blood and toxins cause the hippocampus to malfunction, and I noticeably don't have a good memory anymore. Plus, I can't feel my feet. Now, you'd think that that would be seen to. No, it hasn't. So I've been robbed of prosperity via proxy attacks, and I think now that stems from my former partner and the other prejudices and stigmas due to my public speaking and my public profile. This has been across many government platforms, agencies, and statutory bodies. So, I can prove that. And I am worth the dignity and the litigation, because this is a crime of capitalism and keeping me broke. So I can't access litigation or anything. Plus, I'm framed. I've never been able to get a lawyer. And today, I'm making this statement because I seek compensation on humanitarian grounds, framed by my medical needs, and that I suffer from disability or ability, whatever you want to call it, mental illness, mental skillness, and the acquired brain injury, and framed by the former partner thing, and the many injustices served up by many statutory agencies and bodies, nearly all of them, that have really aided and abetted my death. The office of the chief psychiatrist said, well, you can't kill yourself every time you don't get what you want. And if that had seriously been the case, I would be dead many, many times over. In addition, in regards to my time spent in service to the community for many years in advocacy, after the release of my Human Rights Award-winning book and Sane's Book of the Year autobiography in 2003, I worked for the best part of 20 plus years helping other people more marginalised than me in a proud and brave and vulnerable voice that helped communities systemically, locally, on state, nationally across the country, on TV, on radio, as a advocate for art against stigma, as an advocate for a keynote speaker for the Nurses Mental Health Conference. I did this whole huge advocacy thing, mostly all on my own and through altruism. I didn't realise really I was being taken advantage of the whole time and being further exploited. But anyway, my intentions are good and they always have been good. They are still good now. I'm a good person. I deserve my friends back and my family. I've attached a list of my public advocacy on the website killim.info, and this plea bargain with the federal government will forfeit any liability on behalf of the government or any systemic issues, which I have via proof here in this document and on this website, and will provide to you, and on the website killim.info. I have been victimised. I have been conspired to have my death aided and abetted, and then when it happened, covered up. I've been slandered in the spaces between spaces. I've been prejudiced and discriminated against. It has been a political assault on me. It's been homophobic. It's results of me being attacked by proxy by my former partner, who I have evidence of, is still hoping to ruin my life. Good luck. He doesn't realise that I only need just enough to survive, and that I'm rich in many ways, and money doesn't mean anything to me. The poor bastard's got, he's already moved on to his next victim. He's got nothing to protect apart from his attachments, and I have zero attachments, so I'm free. There's been uninhibited discrimination against me, and defamation and vilification. All this will render the inadequacies and systemic oppression and the provable guilt of the government neutral and forgotten should this plea bargain be met. I'll send details on the form I've submitted. I forgive myself if I've harmed anyone through my confusions. I will forgive the government for the impossibility of finding itself in an unthinkable position that it would have to aid and abet my death in the hope I die, and further desecrate a man who has an ABI and mental illnesses, apparently, that you would be forced to do that. I mean, that's a horrible, unimaginable thing to do. But it's actually happening. I'm not stupid. Depending on who you ask, I either have paranoid schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder, panic disorder, adjustment disorder, personality disorder, generalised anxiety disorder, adult ADHD, and previously dual diagnosis. I don't have enough money for my medication. I don't have a doctor. I don't have a psychiatrist. I don't have any money. I don't have any food. This is not sustainable. I will not stand by and be the victim of this vile systemic oppression that is conscious, malicious, and pointed, and I can prove comes from proxy attack again and again and again and again and again from local, state and federal agencies that are seeking to destroy me via proxy. Also, I would like to apply for whistleblower protections, and this needs to be granted to me as a matter of urgency. I've tried to get protections in place that I won't get a hitman. Well, I know I have got a hitman on me, but for Steve to attack me, this is to protect what I've had to do from litigation or legal persecution. I mean, in the publication of this website and this statement. I've also been set up to be jailed for crimes I'm pretty sure I have not committed, or alternatively incarceration on a permanent basis, in which I was threatened only last week when I went into hospital. I have the evidence of all this being set up, and I know I am under investigation. This whistleblower status so far, which would see me be protected from being sued or litigation or incarceration, and further the freedom to pursue litigation on my own terms for people who've wronged me, has been rejected to me from the following government bodies already. IBAC, who investigate Victoria Police, and I can't report one crime to police, and you'll find all that on the website. APRA, I forget, confirm with APRA and ASIC. APRA, I can't remember, Australian Prudential Regulations Authority. One of them just rejected me outright, and one of them, which is the bankruptcy people, in which I wouldn't have had to go bankrupt and provided evidence for that, still condoned that bankruptcy was to happen, and the Commonwealth Ombudsman, despite about a 500-page document, have never agreed to me having whistleblower protection. I just can't believe this is happening to me. I would like to live a simple life I can live in peace, free from death threats at my home, and even to have a home to exist in, just simply with my dog for a simple life. I want to be able to give back to the community, and I want to get back into my creativity. I'm worthy of that. I want to hang out with my few friends and make amends with the ones I've been slandered from or exploited. It must slander me with the most heinous of taboos. Whatever or how it's done, I don't know. As a person who has bravely shown pro-feminist equality, equity, human rights, anti-racism through my public speaking, but also my vulnerabilities and mistakes in public speaking and writing, I'm easily exploitable because I have the following traits. I'm either mad, have used drugs, or some kind of evil extortionist, which I found out after I suicided in hospital that was the case by a doctor's lawyer, that I was some kind of evil extortionist. And I'll have you know that at that time, I was gifted $100,000, and then they said it was a mistake, so I gave it back. Money is not my currency, it's ethics and justice. And I'm easily exploited because I'm gay, or I've got a PhD, hence I'm too clever or not clever enough. Depending on who has the money, I'm either too mad or not mad enough. I want to work on the possibility of regaining my family, and then look forward to re-engage as an advocate and creative person to the best of my abilities within the country. Should I go back to work, and I hope so, after I'm settled with justice and fairness, as I have an intention to do so and restart my art career and my advocacy career, I will gladly forfeit the compassionate act of grace payments from the government to support myself on my own terms. I've offered not a total compensation amount, as that would be out of the sky, but I've written to you a monthly benefit for the atonement that we can have together, for moving on, and I hope we can do that. My currencies don't include attachment to money nor gaining it. Therefore, I simply ask that my issues with my former partner be tended to, and the monthly allowance, which is depending on how much it costs and all that kind of stuff, as the act of grace, which is barely a splice of what I'm entitled to. This is to last as long as I'm alive, for a comfortable level of my needs to be met, and that I can give back to my parents and help them and support them in their old age, and supporters, and also give generously in time and passion and advocacy, because that's a currency that is most important to me, and a methodology in which I can gain the most amplified and meaningful connections and the most effect on a positive world. You're asking which NCE, Commonwealth Department or agency does your claim relate to? I'll go into that later. Have you sought review from the NCE in matter from another body, Ombudsman, Tribunal or Court? Yes. I will outline the outcomes, and then I will state why I consider my circumstances as special and why I consider payment would be appropriate. That is a simple method of me being able to prove this vile movement, and that's illegal. And in addition, that I have worth as a track record of someone who's given back to the community and is a hard worker. I've never sold my soul to the highest bidder and all that kind of stuff. And I've always tried to do my best, I don't know how the impossibility of this situation came around, and people have told me that it's not solvable. I don't believe this is true. I believe that if we can act with compassion and fairness and acknowledge that I have been a successful person in art and advocacy and human rights and dignity, and that I am still advocating for my life at the moment, for myself, that we can come to an agreement that is just and is fair and is just like a monthly pension type thing, and that we can put this loggerheads between the federal government and me to bed, that I'll be able to have food, and I don't know, I'll just read out a couple of bits more. You asked who the crimes relate to. Well, there's the police, the federal police, ARPA, NHPO, BC, IBAC, AFCA, ASIC, APRA, AGIS, ASIO, Services Australia, Health.gov, Commonwealth Ombudsman, AAT, Comcare, Business.gov.au, Small Business and Family Ombudsman, Telecommunication Industry Ombudsman, Centrelink, Office of Public Prosecutions, Health Complaints Commissioner, Mental Health Commissioner, my former partner, Office of the Australian Information Commissioner, VCAT, VOCAT, the Magistrates Court, Family Court, Comcare, or blah, blah, blah. I've sought help and I've tried to be a whistleblower and it's been refused. I've been blocked from the Federal Family Court. I've been unacknowledged by Cyberwatch and the Federal Police. My VOCAT outcomes have all been cooked. All my outcomes I'll state to you, supporting documentation. So I just want to say that hang on, where was I? Sorry, I'll just go on to this. Even though I have been framed as an extortionist by a GP's lawyer, for right or wrong, I raised a legitimate issue with it, and it's never been about money. I only, after my suicide attempt in Werribee Meads Hospital, found that the government's oppression, that I was framed as an extortionist. Later it became clear that my former partner, an ASIO employee, had utilised his government and underworld powers to disadvantage me at every single turn I made, and still to this day I'm owed compensation from a 5-year plus relationship we've had where we were engaged to be married, although it wasn't legal at the time. This systemic framing and crime of poverty has prevented me from accessing litigation and any justice. I also, in retrospect, realised it was framed systemically after a Geelong magistrate rudely rejected my own child sexual abuse case, where I was the victim for my VOCAT case, and I'd suffered the inability to attend work on the day because of a 3-year cooked process by yourlawyer.com.au, where they gave no legal outcome, which is illegal. Where I also cared for a marginalised man with severe schizophrenia who had child rape and incest issues, and that's the reason I didn't go to work. It wasn't because I was mentally ill. I did this in my role as a registered NDIS therapeutic support and artist life coach recovery expert. I had a contract from the NDIA to, again, like I had for many years, help marginalised people within the local community, a job I loved and was incredibly sad to leave and I'd love to go back to. My work cover was then framed, and Comcare, first of all, work cover refused to acknowledge it. Paul Fowler was the boss at Comcare, and they kept saying go to Comcare, so I went to Comcare and they rejected me, and then Paul Fowler rejected me, and lo and behold, my appeals with WorkSafe weren't going through because Paul Fowler was the old head at work cover. And now it's gone to the AAT. I told the AAT I didn't want to proceed because it is inequitable that this amount of persecution from the government and the fact that they've railed me so many times already through systemic attack, proxy attack, that it was inequitable and unjust in the rule of law, and that it was way out of kilter, inequitable and unfair, and I didn't want to do it. And then I told them where to go, and they hung up, and lo and behold, that was the hearing at AAT. Now it's gone to a tribunal hearing. So now that Comcare and work cover case, everyone's entitled to work cover, and I have a record of my my worker ID with the government, and I was advance paid COVID royalties as well, and apart from that, it says basically on the NDI, under the NDIS Commission, a worker is anyone who is employed or otherwise engaged to provide NDIS supports and services to people with disability. Workers can be paid or unpaid and can be people who are self-employed, employees, contractors, consultants and volunteers. Now they're arguing by something I don't quite understand yet that I wasn't an employee, I was a contractor. But anyway, look, what's happened is that I think they're going to try and do the angle that I put myself immediately in a place of danger, but in actual fact I didn't, because I had conversations with that client, and I have evidence that my new contract with him forbade him to contact me until I saw him. So in actual fact, I had put in place ways to protect myself. But anyway, I'll just go on. I have had a public role within Australia as a recovery expert and national human rights autobiographer who invested years and years for the purpose of people not having to suffer what I did. I've served the state, national and international community, my advocacy for over 20 years. I'm a person who has achieved a great deal, including running my own business, being an illustrator and news graphics artist, in a public role for the Herald, Sun and The Age, yet also was crucified by those institutions with prejudice and discrimination. I worked my way up through Masters of Education and further a Doctor of Philosophy against all odds uphill, and I made it about young people and their ethical opinions of being human now and the future. I have an Australian Human Rights Awarded book, but the Victorian Human Rights and Equal Opportunity outright reject me, as do Australian Human Rights Commission, and I have St Australia's Book of the Year, and it was a courageous autobiography published by Allen and Unwin. I've been an agent of prolific creativity, having exhibited for over 25 years, a visual artist and designer, having published different catalogues over the years, and even a short film was made on my life and art by the Dax Collection to engage young people in Year 11 and 12 psychological studies as a window into mental health and art. I wrote and illustrated a children's book while I was with my former partner and while on a DSP and part payment for a scholarship, and I raised money for the Royal Children's Hospital Banksia unit for child and adolescent mental health as I became aware of my own difficulties and the effect holistic health and abuse, especially sexual abuse, has on the child and the unacknowledged adult. And I wanted to, if the book was a success, greatly enrich the unit with prosperity for the most vulnerable, innocent people and sometimes the needless suffering as children. Here is, I've added a list of my advocacy speaking engagements, including Australian Parliament, keynote speeches and other ways I've tried to positively influence the local, state, national, international perspective on mental health recovery, and elaborate sums of money have never been in my currency. I did all of this on the whole with altruism, guts, courage and my time, and then I did most of it for nothing. Now the information I shared is utilised against me in ways that exploit already societal held prejudices, and I feel it's a great shame, as I've been marginalised, shamed, blamed, framed, and I'm easily exploitable, and I've lost my people. I offer an act of grace, and I seek an atonement with my former partner, and I seek atonement for my fee waiver from AFSA, I think it is, AFSA, and I would like to acknowledge that if you go through with this, I will disappear. I'm not going to be a public person anymore. I've done that before, but I will be most likely working in the community to further help people more marginalised than me, as I've always done. And I would like the litigation and legal things of compensation with Comcare and my, I want whistleblower status basically, and I want to be able to acknowledge and still get reimbursed for these valid things, separate from the act of grace payment that I'm seeking. So that's my statement for today. It's Dr. Richard Mclean signing off. Thank you for listening, Mr. Government or Mrs. Government, and I'm a good person. I don't believe I've done anything wrong, and if I have, I'm sorry. And I'm free. I don't know how free you can be free when you're oppressed as much as I am. And just recently, my only advocate left, and I don't know why. I guess he got caught up in the vile slander that's happening. Something's going on. I know that, and I know I'm hungry, and it's not good. It's not good enough. Balanced on what I've given to the Australian community and what I've contributed and the vulnerabilities I've expressed, and the way that I've gone about my life in a brave way, and that I've suffered at the hands of people in positions of money, power and privilege, as opposed to me, who it seems the best solution, rather than compensate me, is to get me to kill myself. Well, that's why I've launched killing.com, killing.info. But I can take all that down. I just want an acknowledgement, and I want to have some human dignity and respect. I'm deserving of that. Everyone's deserving of that. I deserve food. I deserve a place to stay. I've worked hard. And yeah, the atonement from both parties will be official, and it can go under the radar. I just want my life back, please. Can you please consider it? Otherwise, I think I may have to go public with this, and I don't want to have to do that because it's more stress and drama. But if you do not accept this, or for a compassionate ex gratia, then I've got no choice other than defend myself or die. So I'll be taking it to independent people, and I'll be researching the litigation, should I have an internet connection, on how to take the government to task on legal grounds. I don't want to have to go that far. Let's be kind. I've been a kind man. I am a kind man. Please be kind to me. Thank you.